Do you think it's alright? It'll dance in your mind. It happens again. You think we are just friends. Before you know it, it never ends. Here we go. No point in calling you up now, as long as the sun's down.
Guys, I'm gonna be real. This might be the hardest video I've ever made. I was very hesitant about making this video, not because of the online discourse, but the amount of brain rot that happens to come up during these discussions. The moment Star Wars is brought up in any conversation, there's always a pack of vultures that start picking at your opinions like roadkill. There is no middle ground when it comes to talking about Star Wars. And Star Wars has always been a very divisive series. You're either wrong for liking a Star Wars or wrong for hating a Star Wars. Society has not been the same since Disney came along and made people angry. I swear, it's been a shitstorm skimming through Twitter and seeing people argue about the new Acolyte show, with emotions ranging from blind love copium to downright devious grifter behavior. And of course, with any online discourse, both sides of the vocal minority are being way too overzealous, with some people going as far as to review bomb a movie that just so happens to be named Acolyte, just because a show about laser wizards has women and people of color in it. Now, I'm not racist, homophobic, or sexist, but on the other hand, I'm not stupid enough to say this show is good because it makes grifters mad. And that's the biggest problem when talking about this new series. People seem to think that this is how we should be critical about the media we consume, because last time I checked, if someone thought something was good, it was because it resonated with them on a personal level, not because it can be used to make a neckbeard type ferociously at their keyboard. This manner of thinking feels very disingenuous and naive, but on the other hand, I could give less of a fuck if you hate the show because it has black people in it. I'm not saying you're right or wrong if you like or hate this show, but I wish the narrative around the series could change, because currently the conversations about the show are not fun to engage in. So I'm going to do my best to tackle the crummy aspects of this series and give a non-biased review of a show that deeply disappointed me, and to hopefully shift the discussion on how we critique the media we consume. And I'll say this again for those who don't know how to listen, it's okay if you like the show. However, from my experience, I can't imagine that this is the standard people are okay with for Star Wars. After the sequel trilogy, Star Wars had a rough time bouncing back from that shit heap of a final movie, but we all found solace in The Mandalorian, a show that not only looks great, but was written incredibly well. Seasons 1 and 2 are some of the best Star Wars we've gotten from Disney, but since then it almost feels like those first 2 seasons were a fluke, because after that there's been a massive shift in quality and writing. Instead of being a fun episodic show about a dude taking care of a baby alien, it became the cameo show. Now for context sake, I have not seen Andor, but there's been so much garbage that has come out of Star Wars lately that I don't think one show is going to change my opinion. But that being said, it feels like Disney isn't even trying anymore. The Mandalorian Season 3 straight up ruins everything the previous season set up. Book of Boba Fett is a fucking joke. The Kenobi series personally offends me with all the dumb decisions it made. Ahsoka was so overwhelmingly dull that I mentally checked out after 2 episodes. And now we have the Acolyte, which is basically on the same level of shittiness. The weird thing is, all the biggest issues with this show are the writing and how the events intertwine. I feel like if this show was played out chronologically, and if the script was written by a person instead of ChatGPT, the show would be a whole lot better. Okay, video over. Bye guys. Okay, in all seriousness, I am going to go through all the episodes and emphasize what I mean, because besides those 2 examples, this show is formatted in a very strange way that makes the events in the story really fucking boring. So with all that in mind, let's actually talk about the show. Let's start with episode 1. So for those of you who haven't seen The Acolyte, get ready for a very long and detailed explanation of the events in the story. The Acolyte begins with an unknown individual acting up and challenging a Jedi to a Royal Rumble. Damn, is this Jedi just gonna let her friends get their asses kicked? Also, I love that this unknown person does a few kicks and punches, and this is enough for the Jedi to identify her as an unknown Force user. Anyways, they fight a little bit, then Indara gets stabbed. After this, we meet Osha, who works as a mechanic with her droid friend, who isn't literally just another insert cute droid character. Osha looks just like the unknown Force user who killed Indara and is brought in as the main suspect. Now, I don't want to be nitpicky, but it's gonna happen a lot. And maybe I'm being too crass, but her hair is clearly shorter than the assailant, And don't these ships have hologram recorders? I don't know, I feel like there was a simpler way to prove she didn't kill Endara. Anyways, she gets arrested, and then we meet Jedi Master Sol, who is obviously hiding something about his former Padawan who's being framed for the murder of Endara. And you can bet your sweet Bippy the show's gonna keep reminding us he knows more than he's letting on. Osha crash lands on Hoth and then she dies. Then she starts to see ghostly visions of her younger sister, which you can bet your sweet Bippy the show is gonna use as a lazy plot device for Osha to use. Sol, Yord, and X-23 find her and learn that Osha has a twin sister who's still alive, and agrees to help clear her name. Then the episode ends with a sneak peek of the second main villain.
The Jedi live in a dream they believe everyone shares. If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel or laser are no threat to them, but an Acolyte kills without a weapon. An Acolyte kills the dream.
Ooh, what a deep mythical quote that doesn't sound stupid and pretentious. Boy. Next episode. So episode 2 begins with May engaging in more terrorism by breaking into a temple to kill the Jedi Torben. Now, I won't marinate too much on this because the entire internet has already done this, but that fake beard is hilarious. May can't break through his infinite void and tries to find another method to kill him. Now mind you, she has to kill a Jedi without a weapon, and you can bet your sweet Bippy she's gonna follow through with this, and this reasoning will be explained in later episodes and isn't a dumb pretentious line a fucking algorithm wrote. May decides to go to a friend of hers to get a poison she can give to Master Torben, and this guy... Trust me, it's obvious who this guy is, but I'll save that for the later episodes. So Osha and the group make their way to the Jedi Temple to look for May, and as they investigate, we see that May uses the roof to break in. Wait, she could do that the whole time? Why did she have to go through the front door if she could just climb through the very exposed ceiling? Anyways, Torben finally realizes May is there and willingly drinks the poison? Why? Very convenient that our characters need to find him since he could be very useful in apprehending May, but for plot's sake, he kills himself before they can find him. Yeah, okay. It's also hilarious that Osha found Torben first before everyone, and this includes 2 Jedi who live in this temple and know where Torben is, all because she saw May's convenient Force Ghost tour guide. Kinda reminds me of another convenient plot device from another bad Star Wars. Anyways, the group hatches a plan to intercept the man who gave May the poison, and after they catch him, they get some information out of him, and they just take his word for it. Now, I'll explain later why this is stupid, but it's hilarious that we saw Sol use the Force to tap into someone's mind, but he decides to take the word of a random stranger. Just because. Don't worry, I'll get to why this is stupid. So our heroes find May and a duel ensues, and I gotta say, the fights in the show are pretty good. There's not a whole lot of them, but I'll take what I can get. After a few tussles, May escapes and Osha just happens to find her by walking a few paces away from her post in a big city. Yeah, okay. And she has an opportunity to stun her, but conveniently misses. So this show is just going to continue its streak of prolonging events that could be solved in minutes? Gotcha. So May and Kamir travel to another planet to kill the Wookiee Jedi Kalnaka, and the episode ends, so we're just going to move on. Dear Lord help me. Now, when I was watching episode 3, it occurred to me that this show has one of my biggest TV show pet peeves. It tells the story out of order so that we can get bits of information drip-fed to us. The reason this bothers me is actually a very simple one. It makes the show boring. You'd think this episode would give context as to what happened on Osha's planet, but all we learn is that Osha and May were a part of a coven of witches, and that May is one of the stupidest fucking characters in the show. Since the previous episodes already show where our characters are currently, all the tension is lost because nobody is in any real danger. This style of writing doesn't make me more invested in the story, it makes me more frustrated that the show is just fucking around, and is prolonging a story that doesn't need to be this stretched out. If you ask me, this is an episode that would have served better as the pilot to the show. If you tweak the writing a little bit, this would have been a great hook by showing us the origins of our characters and deliver the mystery in a more congruent way. I would have actually been invested if we saw how Osha and May were brought up, and after these events, we jump to 16 years later and see Osha working with the Jedi to find May and the unknown Sith. I don't want to act like I could write a better story, but it frustrates me when a show decides to actively waste my time. And again, the writing for the show is just not doing it for me.
I am with you, always one, born as two. As above sits the stars, and below lies the sea, I give you you, and you give me me.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
Are you for real, man? What's funnier is that Osha is given the choice to be a Jedi. Even her mother is okay with it. But May really doesn't like that. So how does she convince her to not leave? She says, "I'm gonna kill Osha and burn down the coven." Are you fucking kidding me, man? I know it's revealed later that May didn't kill the witches, but it doesn't stop this scene from being absolutely ridiculous. And again, why are they blueballing us? I know Soul has more to do with this scenario, and the show keeps acting like it's very cleverly deceiving us. Like, I'm not stupid. You're making it abundantly clear that Soul has a secret that clearly has something to do with Osha and May, so I ask again, why are we stretching the story out to get to that revelation? I just want this shit to be over. I'm moving on to the next episode, because the more I think about this episode, the angrier I get. So episode 4 begins with our heroes tracking down May and Kamir while trying to find the Jedi Kalnaka before they do. I love that they're asking locals if they've seen Kalnaka, then they just decide to use the tracker that they brought with them. Yeah, okay. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this episode because it's the most boring fucking episode out of the whole series. Not much to say about an episode that just consists of characters walking through a forest. However, one thing I can say about this episode is that May continues her streak of being the dumbest fucking character. So after finding out her sister is alive, she hatched this genius level plan to turn herself into the Jedi and give them info they need about the unknown Sith, thinking that they'll let her off easy because she told them information they needed. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Girly pop, you've already killed 2 Jedi and attempted to kill 2 more. What the fuck are you talking about? And mind you, this is the same woman who freaked out that her sister was leaving her and said that she would kill her. And now for some reason, conveniently I might add, she has this undying loyalty to her sister. What's hilarious is that despite saying she's gonna turn herself in, the next episode she still tries to kill Jedi.
Oh god. Just like that. That was, I believe, that one. Do we get that?
This show is so fucking stupid. May finds Kalnaka and... oh, he's already dead. Wow, that was anticlimactic. Well, the Jedi show up, and then the masked Sith shows up, and he force pushes the Jedi. Why did they all charge him at once? What was the plan here? Whatever, the episode ends, and I seriously just want this shit to be over. I can't review a show that thinks that I'm fucking stupid, while also showcasing the stupidest fucking logic and writing. I really am trying to be fair in my review, but the amount of nitpicks and inconsistencies makes me want to end this video here and call it a day. Maybe I should do that. You know what? Fuck this. I don't want to talk about the show anymore.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Episode 5, could it get any worse? So we see the Jedi face off against the masked Sith, and like I said before, the action scenes are pretty good in this show. I love that his helmet can deflect lightsabers and cause them to malfunction. That's pretty cool, I like that. So May forgets she wants to turn herself in and then attempts to kill some Jedi, and then gets arrested. Not until X-23 has to face off with the masked Sith and gets brutally murdered. May tries to flee and gets shot by a stun blaster, but conveniently didn't get stunned. Yeah, okay. Master Soul faces off against the masked Sith, and he's revealed to be Kamir! No fucking shit. Does this show think I'm stupid? Okay, I need you guys to follow me on this because, whoo boy, this is one of the dumbest moments in the show. Remember, this is the same guy who Soul got information from and just took it at face value. This is the same Jedi who can use the Force to tap into someone's mind. Kinda convenient, the one person he doesn't use it on just so happens to be the Sith orchestrating the entire scheme and trained May to kill Jedi. I guess if Soul had used his Force abilities then and there, the show would have been a lot shorter, but remember guys, this show needs to create convenient scenarios in order for the show to prolong itself, even though it didn't need to be that complicated. And they bring up the fact that he has fucking Magneto's helmet that can cut off Force users from tapping into his mind, even though they interrogated him and he didn't have the helmet on, because this show for some reason needed to set up a twist that everyone saw coming a mile fucking away. Jesus Christ, who wrote this show? Osha and Yord attempt to flee, but at the last second, Osha decides to go back and help Soul for some reason. Then has a confrontation with May, which ends with Osha getting knocked out and May stealing her clothes and cutting her hair to look like Osha. Okay, so first off, I could be nitpicky and say, well, how did no one notice the smell of burnt hair? But that would be too cynical. But what about the fact that Soul has a connection with Osha and at no point could deduce that it was actually May? Also, it's very convenient that the tracker just so happens to be there and will obviously tell that it's not Osha. I'm sure he'll be used for that and not a dumb, stupider reason. So the episode ends with Osha being taken by Kamir and Soul leaving the planet with May. Okay, moving on. So episode 6 opens with Osha on another planet and a very weird and awkward interaction with Kamir. Homie, put a fucking shirt on. Like episode 4, there's not a whole lot to say, cause it's just a lot of dicking around and boring shit that I don't care about. So a group of Jedi decide to intercept Soul's location to aid him, and Osha is just talking with Kamir. That's literally it. And I guess Osha puts on his mask because that's relevant. I told you, there's not a whole lot of shit to talk about in this episode. It just continues its ever-present stretch of convenience and terrible writing. I'm just gonna move on now. We've made it to the episode that explains everything, all the biggest secrets of the show, and just as you'd expect, it still manages to be really fucking dull. I wasn't joking when I said the show just makes up these very convenient scenarios to put our characters in, only to come back around later and explain. This style of writing reminds me of The Walking Dead during that weird period where they'd start a plot point, then jump to another one, and then another, only for the story to circle back around to the first plot point. Friendly Space Ninja has a really good video about this. I'd highly recommend checking it out if you haven't. This is a style of writing he affectionately likes to call boomerang storytelling, and just like Friendly Space Ninja, I fucking hate it. Not only does it make the story super convoluted, but it also doesn't help that this show has already shown us where and what our characters are doing, so to have them explain what happened on Osha and May's home planet just feels redundant. I'm not worried for any of the characters' chances of survival. I already know Osha leaves with Soul, the Coven of Witches gets torched, and May gets left behind. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that the Jedi were already on the planet and the show has to explain why they were there to begin with, my bad. They couldn't show us these events in chronological order, cause that would mean I'd be invested in what the fuck the show wants me to be invested in. But Donnie, they have to explain that Soul sensed a divergence on the planet. I don't care! Do we really need to dedicate 40 minutes of an episode just to tell us that tiny bit of information? Whatever, point is, Soul sensed a divergence on the planet, then decides to confront the witches, which ends with him killing one of them and stealing their child.
Oh my god! I can't believe this! Yo, I can't believe this!
And not to be shallow, but this connection Soul has with Osha is very fucking creepy. It comes off a little too predatory. Maybe that was the point, but either way, it's still weird. That's among the other frustrating things about this series. I get that it's supposed to be morally gray, but I don't know who this show wants me to root for. The Jedi are assholes and idiots. May is an asshole and an idiot. Osha is just here. No, literally, she's just here to get angry and become evil. I'm just gonna move on to the final episode. I want this shit to be over with. Finally, we've reached the ultimate climax of The Acolyte, the final episode that ties everything together in a neat little bow. Yeah, that aforementioned tracker you'd naturally think would alert Soul that it's actually May in disguise. Nope, he just wrestles her leg. whatever. And then when Soul finally figures out it's Mei, she escapes and steals an escape pod. While trying to reach her, the fucking tracker starts to mess with the ship and goes out of its way to stop Soul from catching Mei, which conveniently ends up with them crash landing on Mei's home planet. This show is so dumb. This show is so dumb. This show is so dumb. This show is so fucking dumb. Kamir and Osha make their way to Mei and Soul and... oh, is that Darth Plagueis? I mean, okay, but why is he here? We see the group of Jedi who have been informed that the Sokovia Accords could be implemented on them for suspicious behavior and corruption, which honestly is pretty fair. These people don't even act like heroes half the time. Anyways, these Jedi make their way to Osha and Mei's home planet where we see Soul square off against Kamir. Again, I have nothing bad to say about the action. It's well choreographed and the only time you won't feel dead watching the show. I mean, yeah, there's some goofy moments, but they don't ruin the scene for me. Now, I didn't mention it before, and I know how nitpicky this sounds, but I really hate the chunky lightsabers. They look like the shitty little Hasbro lightsabers. Anyways, Soul defeats Kamir and is then intercepted by Mei, who forces him to confess his crimes. Yay! Finally, it can be over! But before the scene can end, Osha gets really mad and turns Soul's lightsaber red and then proceeds to force choke him. Okay, cool. The group of Jedi make their way towards Osha and Mei, and while on the run, they decide to take a break for a little bit. Not like they gotta be worried about the Jedi or anything.
You are with me. I am with you.
And they're still saying that stupid fucking line. What's hilarious is that they clearly didn't know what to do with Mei, since everyone she was hunting is dead. The writers decide to have Osha take her place and train with Kamir, and have Kamir erase her memory. What the fuck? Fine, whatever, sure. I guess it's too much for both of them to go with him, especially the one who's been training with him for 16 years and escaped to a planet that's unknown to the fucking Jedi. Let's just erase her memory. What the fuck else are we supposed to do with her? So Mei gets taken by the Jedi, and I guess lives with them now? I guess? I honestly don't know what she's gonna do. We get some quirky attempts at building anticipation for another season, and we see Osha and Kamir on the unknown planet, and the episode ends. Good fucking riddance. I don't have a whole lot left to say. I think you guys got the point. It annoys me that the only talking points about the show have been very politically driven, and it doesn't have to be. Nowadays, it feels like every time there's a new show or movie, there's always a conversation about how woke it is or how it's a masterpiece because it makes the anti-woke mob upset. I really want this trend to die out, which I know is wishful thinking, but I want the conversation around the media we consume to change. Because of this mentality, we tend to base our opinions off of what seems most trendy and reactionary, which is why media literacy is at an all-time low nowadays. And unfortunately, that's all the Acolyte will be remembered for. The new divisive Star Wars property that was used as a weapon for people to prove they're smarter than others. I'll just live in my own separate bubble and remember the Acolyte as yet another mediocre Star Wars property. Another reason Star Wars fatigue grows stronger within my soul. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this review, breakdown, rant. I'll see you on the flip side, my dudes. Bye-bye.
No point in calling you up now. As long as the sun's down, you'll get to me somehow. I might be pushing my luck now, but who gives a fuck? Well, you give to me somehow.